Welcome to Crimepedia podcast. It's me, Cherry. I'm with you this week as your host, and with me is my true crime BFF. It's Morgan.
Hi, it's me.
Hi, it's me.
Hi, Cherry. How are you?
I am great. I'm really good. Thank you very much.
Good.
I'm all good. So, I did a little poll this week on our Instagram. Because I was looking up all different things to do with podcasting. And I wondered whether people prefer a bit of chat at the beginning of an episode or whether people just prefer you to dive straight in. And the poll came up 100% a little bit of chat before you dive in. I think it's just good to get like the week's news out of the way. Obviously, we have got since our last episode aired, I was in Scotland at CrimeCon last weekend. So we had a different episode with the second episode from Morgan's case. It was a two-parter. So we obviously had the death of Queen Elizabeth, so it's the country sort of been in a bit of an upheaval this week, and it's all been a bit different. And then we've also had some really good news on our Breckenridge case that we did back in, when did we do that? Like last year? Or the year, was that the year before? We did it a long time ago.
January
2020. Oh, was it 21?
2021. Okay. Yeah. January 2021, I believe it was.
Okay, so it was your case, so I'll let you give us the news, because it's exciting news.
Yeah, so just if you've listened and you've forgotten about the case or you haven't listened, there was a case from 1982 where two women, Bobby Jo Oberholzer and Annette Schnee, were picked up hitchhiking separately in Breckenridge, Colorado, and they were both murdered that night. So we had an arrest that occurred last February, March, I think.
Yeah.
So shortly after the case, there was arrest of a gentleman by the name of Alan Lee Phillips. I believe he was about 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he finally went to trial this past few weeks, and last Thursday, a jury deliberated and came back after a few hours and found him guilty of all charges. So it looks like we finally have justice for Bobby Jo and Annette, and he will be sentenced. I believe it's on November 4th.
He's not long away.
That's right. Hearing is going to, and it's expected that he will be given life in prison for the murders and kidnappings.
It's nice to know that her family are now, or their families are now going to have some idea of what happened and why it happened. I mean, this was found it was a DNA. It was found during familial DNA, wasn't he?
That's correct.
Genealogy, yeah, which we don't have in England. So it was somebody obviously researching their family tree that ends up submitting DNA, and then the police get hold of the DNA, and then it find him, and that's how it goes.
Yeah. It's great, crazy story too.
Yeah,
I mean,
really crazy.
Because you remember as well that same night after the murders, he ended up himself being saved.
Yeah.
He was on some mountain pass and got stuck in the snow. Yeah, broke down like on a mountain pass, and
someone pulled him out and let him go again. Little did they know he's a double murderer.
Yeah, someone saw him. Like there was a plane that flew overhead, and they happened to see a car in distress, and it was called in, and then I don't know if it was state trooper or something came out and helped him and got him out of there. Isn't it?
It's crazy. Yeah. But I'm really pleased for Charlie, who was the investigator that we spoke to on a Crimepedia Extra episode. I'm really pleased because that man has worked his entire career to try and solve this case, and finally, over 40 years later, they finally got the guy that did it. It still intrigues me, though, as to who was the guy in the photograph. That's one thing.
I know.
I really want to know who that guy is. If you haven't listened to the episode, go back and listen to it. It's the murder of Bobby Jo Oberholzer and Annette Schnee. Go down in our libraries and look back. And it's a very interesting case. A very, very interesting. I think we did that over 3 parts, didn't we? That was a 3-part case.
Well, 3 parts plus the interview with Charlie. So it was almost like basically 4.
Yeah. And it was a lot. We did a lot of work on that case. And finally, you'll know what I mean when you talk about the person in the picture, then you'll understand what I'm saying.
And I feel good happy for Jeff Overholzer, because
he was under suspicion for a long time, wasn't he?
For many years. I mean, it's been 40, almost 41 years, and he's been under suspicion for that long. And
finally now people realize he didn't actually do it. And I'd like to know, I'd like to hear what this Alan Lee Phillips, what did he plead guilty, or was he just found guilty?
No, he was just found guilty. He pleaded innocent, and the jury, I think it was like 4 or 5 hours, they deliberated and came back and found him guilty.
Wow. It's crazy. It's always really, really good to hear when a case has been solved. And all that work done by all those law enforcement officers over the years. I'm really
Yeah.
pleased that they finally got, an end and the family's finally got an answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get another 100 more solved here.
That would be great. It'd be really good.
It would be.
So this week's case that I'm going to do with you it takes us to Bristol in the south of England. And this is the case. It's a very strange one because we know what happened, but we just don't know how and we don't know why. This is the murder of Evan Jones. Evan Jones was a 46-year-old man living in St Paul's in Bristol, in the southwest of England. He was a former rugby player, a father, and was from Chippenham. He was described as a happy and friendly man who would do anything for anyone. So why was it that on the 13th of March 2002, he was savagely beaten and left for dead? This is Crimepedia, and this is the case of Evan Jones. Okay, Morgan. So Evan Jones was described as a character, somebody who was very caring. He worked as a volunteer for the Salvation Army. He was described as having quite an infectious laugh and was really described as quite a lovely guy. So not a guy that was dodgy or nefarious in any way. He was divorced from his ex-wife Linda, was a father of two girls called Naomi and Hannah. Now, he was a single guy. He lived on his own. He lived in a flat on City Road in St Paul's in Bristol. And he was a former rugby player. He had lived in Chippenham and had moved from there to St Paul's in Bristol. So in the evening, being a single guy, he would like to go out to the local pubs. And there are a few pubs in that area. And he would often go from one pub to the next pub. So he'd go and have a pint in one, say hi to the people in the pub, then go on to the next one. Not drinking to the point there where he would be paralytic, but it's a sociable thing where he would just go out and see people and have a good chat in the evenings. Now, on the 13th of March 2002, and don't faint because this is a very, very recent case for me. Usually my cases are like, 1920s or 1800s or something. So this is fairly recent for me. We're talking about 2002. And this is approximately 8 p.m. Evan left the Old England pub in Bristol and went for a drink in a pub called the Beaufort Arms. Now, this is a pub in York Road in a place called Stokes Cross. Now, he liked to drink Guinness. He went in, got himself a pint of Guinness and was sat and talking to friends. And there was a darts quiz, a darts game going on. So they were sat and they were chatting as the different people were getting up and taking their turns on the dartboard. And he was sat talking to a female friend of his. And she was saying that, and we were talking 2002, so mobile phones were in plenty back then, probably the old Nokia phones where, not up to date ones that we've got now. We're talking like 20 years ago. And he commented on the fact that she had her mobile phone there and she took a call and he said, "Oh, they're just such a pain. I've got rid of mine." And she said, "No, Evan, it's a lifeline. Like I couldn't do without mine now. I've always got it with me, much like we are sort of now. You don't go anywhere without your keys, your wallet and your phone, do you?" It's just one of those things. Have I got my phone? So he was chatting to this lady, sat down having his pint of Guinness, and he sort of started talking to her and said, "Oh, he's had a bit of a time recently." And he said that the previous week he was out and about using the phone box. This is where the sort of phone call came, the phone conversation came in. He said it was in the local phone box when he saw three white men walking up the road. He said he sort of noticed them. They looked a bit dodgy. And then as they sort of got near to him, they approached him. One of the men, he explains, cut the coat that he was wearing from top to bottom with a knife, and then they tried to rob him, but he didn't have anything on him, and so they just ran away. He said that it upset him quite a bit and he was very scared and that he started to get sort of chest pains and that was really worried and anxious about what had happened.
Yeah.
I'm not sure 100% if he had actually reported that to the police. But we know that he had talked about it with his friends in the pub that night because he had mentioned having the chest pains and these men that had sort of attacked him. So the lady said to him, like, you know, you need to be a bit careful. It probably would be a good idea to get a mobile phone again, because if you are out on your own, you've got a lifeline with you. You're able to call people instead of using the phone boxes. So he sort of agreed reluctantly, and then said goodbye to his friends, went next door to a takeaway. And I think it was an Indian takeaway. Can't be 100% on that one, but I believe it to be an Indian
Okay.
takeaway. So he went next door to get himself a curry, and then left at about 20 past 10 to pick up his curry and then go home. Now, something happened to Evan on his way home or when he got back to his flat. It's unclear as to when this incident would have happened. He had started eating his meal and was halfway through his meal when he left the flat, and a passerby reports seeing him bleeding quite a bit from his leg. Now, he asked the passerby, who was a woman on her own walking, he asked her if she would walk him to the hospital, which was about 5 to 7 minutes away,
Okay.
to Bristol Royal Infirmary. And she said she couldn't because she had a babysitter at home looking after her kids, and she needed to get back to her kids. So she says, look, I can't walk you, but, you know, it's not very far. You'll be fine. So she asked him, how did he hurt his leg? And he tells her that he kicked his television because he'd had a bad day, and he'd kicked his television, and that's how he'd
Okay.
hurt his leg. Now, when the passerby was spoken to by police, she said that he was quite calm. He wasn't upset. He wasn't frantic. He wasn't scared. He was quite calm, and explained to her that he'd just been having a bad day, kicked his TV. And I don't know why he asked her to walk him to the hospital, because that's very strange. And then when she said she couldn't, he was okay with that and carried on, and then went to a telephone box to make a telephone call. Now, this is strange because he phones his ex-girlfriend, a lady called Aude Dumoulin, or Dumoulin, however you would like to say that, who lived in France. It's not known what they actually talked about, or it's not reported what they talked about. I'm sure the police have got hold of her, but it's not actually reported what they talked about. I can't imagine that he's injured and he gets in a phone box and says, oh, hi, I've just cut my leg, you know?
Yeah. So it couldn't have been that bad if
No.
he has time to stop and make a phone call to France.
To France, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit confused as to what was going on there. Now, approximately 10 to 11 that evening, Evan was then seen confronting a man in Stokes Croft. Now, Stokes Croft is about a 15-minute walk from his flat, but the Royal Infirmary is about 7 minutes walk from his flat. So there's nothing really to say why he went to Stokes Cross and then why he confronted this man. Now, we know from witness reports that a white car was seen swerving around the two men, who had then started to fight in the street. The man that Evan had confronted was armed with some sort of chain, either a bike chain or a dog chain. And as the fight broke out between him and Evan, this guy is seen beating Evan with this chain.
What?
So I know a 999 call was reported, was called, 999 was called, and there was a report that a fight had broken out, and this was at 10:55 p.m. But in the next 6 minutes between the time that the phone call was made and the police got there, nobody actually knows what happened. Many people came forward to say that they'd actually seen a man being beaten with a chain. And then the guy that did it was said to have fled towards the city centre. And the witnesses all gave different descriptions of the attacker.
Okay.
So obviously that's not very helpful. Some people said that there was more than one attacker. Other people have said that when Evan was lay on the floor, another guy joined in and was kicking and punching Evan while he was knocked out on the floor. And basically these two guys, or this one guy, left him laying in a pool of blood. They'd been viciously beaten. You can imagine being hit with a bike chain.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, it's horrendous. Now, Stokes Croft at the time, like now really, it was very busy. It's a very busy place at night. It was an area that lots of people went for a drink. But back in 2002, it was quite a lot more violent than it is now. It was known as the fighting hotspot of the city. And Montpellier, St Paul's and Stokes Croft were some of the worst areas in the city for crime reports and
Yeah.
for things happening. Stokes Croft isn't actually an area in its own right. It's more, from what I can see, I've not been there, but from what I can see, it's more like a road that's kind of in between two areas, and it's sort of known as Stokes Croft by the locals. From what I could find online, it's now known more for its like derelict buildings, alternative nightclubs and squats, and places like that. But in 2015, the Sunday Times suggested that Stokes Croft was one of the best urban areas to live in the southwest. But comments that
Okay.
I've read
Yeah.
from people online don't seem to agree with that. There is a Banksy there, though. There is a Banksy at the junction of Stokes Croft and Jamaica Street. There's a Banksy called the Mild Mild West, which is a teddy bear throwing a cocktail at 3 riot police. And that appeared in 1998. So obviously that's brought a lot of tourism and a lot of stuff to the area. So that's something obviously that area is now known for.
And so so where this is kind of out of the way from where from the hospital.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And okay, what was it? And what time was this that he had been attacked?
Well, the 999 call was made at 5 to 11 in the evening.
Okay.
And
what
so,
time did the woman notice him bleeding?
well, she saw him about 10 to. So it's only like 5 minutes later that the 999 call was placed. About 5 minutes later.
So there's no way for him to get from those 2 points in 5 minutes?
Well, I'm not sure, because I'm not sure if there's like cut throughs. When I did the check on Google Maps about how far, it said to me it was 12 to 15 minutes to get from where his flat was to where he was found. But she didn't see him right outside his flat, so I'm thinking she was maybe a little bit further away. She's met him kind of on the way, and I think that's how that's worked.
Gotcha.
But the other thing is, I know that in America it's very different to here, and if you go to the emergency room or you go to A&E, like here in America, it's different. You have to pay, don't you, if you go to A&E? But whereas in England, you don't have to pay if you go to A&E.
Yeah.
So and I know that there are people online that have said, well, maybe he was frightened to go to the emergency room in case he had to pay for it, if he wasn't in a position to pay for it. But obviously we don't do that. The same as calling an ambulance. You don't have to pay if you call an ambulance here. However, he may have called ahead to the hospital and they may have said, well, yeah, if you're walking wounded, then you may have a 4 to 5 hour wait. And he's just thought, oh, sod that. I'm not going to sit and wait for a cut on my leg.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing I could find online to say how bad the cut was. The lady said that he was bleeding quite a lot from his leg, but there's nothing to say actually what damage there was to his leg. But the area where he was found has a massive lack of CCTV in the area. And I don't know if it's the same in America, but there are laws in England about where CCTV cameras can be allowed to point. So like you can point them in a residential street, but not at a residential address. So there are CCTV blind spots. I don't know if that's the same. Is that the same there?
Oh, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
So a lot of people said, like, why is there no CCTV of it happening? And that's because apparently where he was found was in a CCTV blind spot, and it was outside some flats, and the CCTV just didn't cover that area.
Okay. I'm assuming there was CCTV that caught him prior to this. I'm assuming
so too.
But we don't have any information on that.
No.
Okay.
But we do have witnesses saying that he confronted this guy. And so detectives were convinced that Evan knew who his attacker was, because otherwise, why would he confront this man? He's bleeding. He's supposed to be concentrating on getting to a hospital, although he's made a phone call to France. And then he's just gone up and attacked this guy, or, confronted this guy. But there must have been witnesses to the full beating, which we know there were, but people came back with lots of different descriptions of the attacker. And then some said there were 2, some said there was 1, some said that 1 joined in halfway through and then ran away. So the police have got this like huge problem in that they're being told all these different things, and it's hard to follow up on that if nobody's actually coming forward with any concrete sort of evidence. Now, after his attackers ran off, Evan was taken to the Bristol Royal Infirmary, which is where he was originally supposed to be going. He never actually gained consciousness after his beating, and was later pronounced dead. Now, the post-mortem revealed that he had also suffered a heart attack that evening. So whether he had suffered a heart attack during the beating because of the severity of the beating, or whether he had suffered a heart attack earlier, he did also mention, if you remember, he'd mentioned having chest pains the week before.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I don't know how they knew that he had a heart attack earlier that evening, or whether it had been, at the time of his attack, or whether, it was before. Now, I've not been able to find his actual cause of death. I've not been able to find out what it actually is. So this leads to speculation in that he obviously died from the injuries sustained whilst he was, being beaten. Also, the heart attack that was found during the post-mortem, there's nothing really to say whether that actually caused his death or not, whether that was just something that had happened previously. We don't have any information on I had a look to see if I could find the post-mortem online, and I couldn't find it. Usually you don't find that unless somebody's like got a copy of it and put it on the internet. But there's nothing to say what other injuries he had, any other ailments he had, how bad his leg injury was. The Bristol Evening Post had printed out posters appealing for information, and Crime Watch did a reconstruction which was aired in May of 2002. So in the construction, it shows Evan. Now, Evan's white. He's about 5'11", so he's quite a big guy. He used to play rugby. He's quite stocky. He was in his 40s. I think it was 47. He had short, dark, it's described dark browny ginger hair. When you actually see the pictures of him, it's cut very short. So I would struggle really to give a colour of his hair. Now, in the reports from the Bristol Evening Post, it says that he was wearing glasses, which he does in literally every picture you can see of him. He was wearing a brown coat and a grey fleece with green trousers and black shoes. So they show in the Crime Watch reconstruction, Evan's in the pub talking to everybody. They show him leaving, getting his takeaway, and they show him walking home. Then they show him approaching this woman with his bleeding leg. Then they show him making a phone call. And then the next thing is just this beating. Because nothing is known between this, like him leaving the phone box and actually being passed out on the floor. The police haven't got anything to say. Now, there was no significant information come forward from that Crime Watch reconstruction. They even put up a £5,000 reward, which was offered for information, but so far no one's ever come back with anything. The team of investigators who have been working on the case for the 7 months that it was going was then gradually scaled back down because they literally had nothing. Evan's daughter Hannah appeared on Crime Watch. She said that her dad didn't have the best of relationships with her and her sister, and they hadn't seen each other for quite a long time, but they were just starting again to rebuild their relationship together. So she just started spending some time with her dad. He had lost contact with all of his friends at the rugby club because he had moved away, so they'd all lost touch. They all described him as a really nice guy, never a problem. He wasn't a loud drunk. He wasn't a pain. He wasn't a menace when he had a drink. And people had come forward to say that Evan had spoken in the pub about wanting to move away from Bristol because it wasn't a great place. And I think obviously this not attack on the first sort of attack on him had scared him quite a little bit. And so he wanted to sort of get away. Now, police had reported that they were keen to speak with a few people that they believed could help in this situation. There was a man who was thought to be Somalian, and he was using a phone opposite Chicken Licking in Stokes Cross. And he would have had a really good view of what had happened. There were also two Asian, now they call them Asian men. I'm not sure what they mean exactly by Asian men, whether they mean guys of like Chinese Oriental descent, or whether they mean guys of what I don't always understand the term Asian exactly. But there was two Asian men stood at Avonmead House bus stop, and he was attacked outside Avonmead House flats. There was also another man who was also described as Asian, using his mobile at the junction of Stokes Croft and City Road. Now, police believe that all of these people would have seen what was going on. And these are the people that haven't come forward. There were other people. There were like a couple that were using the phone box, and they both came forward and, told them what they knew. But these people are still, apparently, they still haven't had them back. But I found a really interesting comment on Reddit. Now, I've boycotted Reddit recently because of people's attitudes on there. But when I was researching this case, and there's not a lot about this case online, it's pretty much the same information kind of regurgitated into different news articles. The Bristol Post being sort of the one that does the most of the posting, because obviously it's local. But
Mhm.
other people have kind of just taken the same information, rewritten it really to then put on their articles. But I found this comment on Reddit from the person who allegedly took over Evan's flat after he died. And this is really
Okay.
interesting because the person posted that they believed Evan to be an alcoholic. They said that he wasn't violent, he wasn't aggressive, he was just a guy that drank too much. And let's face it, like
Okay.
that happens. People are single, they're older men, they go to the pub because it's a social place for them to go. They're not sat in their little house on their own every single night. So they go out. And what do you do when you go to a pub? You'll have a pint. So
Yeah.
it's a common thing. It's a common thing that happens. Now, this person, I don't know if it's a woman or a man, but this person said that Evan had refused to let any tradesmen into his flat to do repairs. Now, his flat was like an old Georgian house. So it was like split up into sort of floors. And the person reported that in the kitchen, there was a large red stain on the floor. And when the person did some investigating as to what this stain could be, not knowing what had happened to Evan, they found out that a specialist cleaning company had been brought in to clean the flat prior to this person moving in. And when they spoke to the cleaning company, they said that the kitchen, when they got there, was absolutely covered in blood.
Ooh.
So,
Oh.
but obviously he had cut his leg, hadn't he? So whether this is from him kicking his television, but I mean, he left his meal.
Uh,
He left his meal. He was halfway through his dinner. What's going to make you get
his
up and
takeaway.
kick your
Yeah.
television? You know?
That's strange.
Well, I mean,
And honestly,
yeah.
you have to. I mean, this is 2002, so we're
Mm,
not talking probably not talking flat screen, right?
no.
This is probably a significant TV.
Yeah.
And if it was a tube TV, you got to kick that thing pretty damn hard to.
Exactly. And like what would make you want to kick your television? What would make you get up and kick your TV? I mean, it's a strange thing to do.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
It's
very
odd.
strange.
It's
Yeah.
very odd. Now, there were also reports that evening that Evan was wearing some type of red and white Arabian headdress. Do you know those ones that like the Arabs wear, where they have the it's like a tea towel, with a band around it?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So apparently there were reports that Evan was wearing this. I mean, he was from Wales. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure why he would be wearing that, but there are more than one reports that he was wearing this headdress that evening.
Well, why?
I have no idea. And also, it's not on the Crime Watch
Okay.
reconstruction. So the police officers that are dealing with it and the people that wrote the reconstruction don't have him wearing that. But I have read more than two accounts saying that he had this like headdress on. And whether maybe this upset, because it's a multicultural area where he comes from, maybe this had upset
Yeah.
somebody.
Um, I'd be interested to see. Okay. So we know there was the one woman that he ran into on the street.
Yeah.
If she can say, yeah, he was wearing that, or was this something that was he wearing it at the pub earlier, or
Well,
when? I
as
don't
far as
know.
as far as I could see in the reports that I read, he was wearing it in between the phone box and the beating. But like I
So
said,
we can
those six
assume that.
minutes, people don't. Yeah,
So we can assume that woman, if he was wearing it, she would be able to say, yeah, he
yeah,
was wearing it.
yeah. Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Now, obviously, this does raise quite a lot of questions in this case. Why did he? The Bristol Royal Infirmary was about 7 to 10 minutes walk from his flat. Why didn't he just go straight to the hospital to sort his leg out? Why did he
Mm-hmm.
stop and ask this lady to walk him to the hospital? But then instead of going with her to the hospital or going there on his own, carrying on there, why did he stop, get in the phone box, and then walk the complete opposite direction and then confront this guy? And the fact that he confronted this guy. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got to think what could have caused. There's questions. What could have caused him to kick his television in halfway through his meal? He hasn't finished his
Yeah.
meal. Why would you be eating your dinner, get up and smash your TV in, and then leave your house? Then you've got why did he not go straight to the infirmary, which is only like 7 minutes walk away? Why did he,
Hmm.
after seeing this woman, what was in the phone call? What was he saying on the phone to his ex-girlfriend? Why phone his ex-girlfriend? That's another strange thing. Why phone her? She's in France.
Yeah.
What is he phoning her to say? He hasn't got a mobile phone. He's told his friends he hasn't got a mobile phone at home. So it's not as if he's on the phone having a row and he's kicked his television in frustration, because that would make sense. And then his phone's died or something, and then he's gone to the phone box to speak to her. Could it be that they were having some sort of argument?
Yeah.
That's a plausible explanation. But we don't know what
Yeah.
we don't know what the police have asked her. What has she said? I understand that she has spent a lot of time comforting his ex-wife, the mother of his children, because I think the mother of his
Yeah. Yeah.
children took his death really badly. And I believe that the ex-girlfriend from France and the ex-wife have become quite good friends, and they've sort of helped each other sort of through this. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that they know what was in that conversation because of what she said. The other thing is, like, onto the fight, what happened? What was this, just completely random? Did he just see something he didn't like and confront this guy? Why did he approach this man in particular? There's no reports as to what this guy could look like, what he could be wearing, because there's so many different people have said so many different things. So the police haven't actually, as far as I could see, they haven't released saying this is the guy we're looking for, or the guy was wearing this, because there's
I
nothing
have a
to show.
feeling. I have a feeling that whoever did this has to be local,
Yeah. Oh,
because
yeah.
who's carrying around a chain
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah.
And this is the other thing that's strange to me, is that it's an urban area,
Yeah.
probably a very busy area,
Yeah. Very.
and we don't have any other. I mean, we have very little in the way of eyewitnesses coming
Yeah.
forward and saying this is what happened.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there were people there that saw it happen, because people have spoken to police and say that this guy was hitting him with the chain. This other guy came and
Yeah,
joined in. They were kicking him while he was on the floor. But as usual in areas like this, people are scared of retribution. So if that person is well known locally and they know of him and he knows those people that were also there, they may be scared to come forward because they're reluctant as to what might happen to them if they do. I mean, let's face it, no law-abiding citizen walks around with a chain in their pocket.
no.
You just don't. So that person is obviously trouble, because they're out and about
Hmm.
armed with a chain. I mean, and the chain's never been found. That they've never found this weapon. It wasn't
Okay,
discarded anywhere.
let me ask you this.
Uh-huh.
I want to see what you say. From what you have read and what you've learned, do you think that this was a targeted attack, or do you think it was completely random?
I don't think it was a planned attack. I don't think that this man planned to hurt him that night. I think that it's somebody he knew of. I think that he's recognized the person because he confronted this person. The witnesses have come forward to say he was confronting him. So there must be a reason why Evan confronted this guy, why he started
Evan
shouting at
confronted
him.
him.
Yeah. So there must be a reason why Evan has started an argument with this guy. I mean, I couldn't find any reports to say that Evan hit him first, or that Evan was violent towards him. Only that Evan confronted him, and then this fight broke out. So could it be that he was one of the men that had attacked him, and Evan recognized him, and this guy's on his
Mm,
own, so he's
yeah,
then confronted him because this guy's by himself? So could it be that? Or could it be that this guy, I don't know, Evans had a couple of drinks, he's angry because of his leg. But I mean,
leg.
the lady that saw him, she said he was pretty calm. He wasn't agitated and
Yeah,
angry. He's also phoned his, I just wondered, it's the phone call that does it for me. It's a phone call that I think is strange. Because
like,
instead
is
of
there
going,
something in that phone call that would let set him off?
and I'm wondering, was he on the phone before he got back to his flat? Was he angry? Had something happened? Had he already tried to phone her and something had happened on the
And
phone? Then
then,
he's gone home and he's thinking about it. He's winding himself up about it. He's lost his temper, and then he's gone out again because he's left his flat
yeah,
and gone out again. He's asked this lady to walk him to the hospital, but he goes and phones the ex-girlfriend. It's a strange little sequence of events. I mean, I have also read people have suggested that was it something to do with drugs? Was he a drug user? And I haven't got the toxicology report, so I can't give you the answers on that. Nobody really talks about him being a drug user, so I don't think that's the. I mean, obviously, it's a valid point to bring up. Could he? Yes, he could. Obviously, it's possible, but is it likely? Not really.
I have this feeling there's probably multiple things going on
Yeah.
at the time, right? So I think that it's probably multiple things that kind of led to this.
Mm,
Yeah, maybe there was something going on with between him and the girlfriend, right?
mm.
Um, but then I don't think it's the obviously I think the attack is probably not related,
Yeah.
but I think it might have been a factor in it. So let's say that he after the phone call the second phone call to the girlfriend or from the phone booth,
Mm.
maybe that kind of set him off, and now he's kind of in a bad mood
Agitated.
because
Yeah.
agitated. He's been drinking, and then maybe he sees this guy that had previously attacked him, and he confronts him, and
Yeah.
but then once again, that tells me that the guy was in the area. So I mean that there has to be people that know what happened and who
Yeah.
did this and why,
Yeah. Of course. I mean, not necessarily even knowing why, but there's obviously people that saw what happened.
and they
Um,
know who it
and they
was. Yeah.
probably know who it is, but they don't say anything because obviously they're worried that this person is going to. So then, does that mean that this is a person that's very well known locally? Because you kind of know
Mhm.
your dodgy, the people that have got a reputation like that. There's obviously a reason
Yeah.
why these people are scared to come forward or are not coming forward. Because I mean, you'd remember that if you were driving down the road and there's two guys having a fight in the street and one of them's got a
You
chain
would
and you've
remember that.
had to
Yeah. Oh,
swerve out of the way, you would remember
you
that.
remember that. Yes, you remember that.
So, those people, they haven't come forward. The people in the white car, they haven't come forward yet. You'd remember that was happening. You've still got the people, the man who's thought to be Somali. I mean, not everybody might live there. People might not live in that
Mhm.
area. They might have just been in for a night out. They might have been in for work reasons. They might have been, they might not be local to the area and they might not have any idea this has even happened. Because if you go
Mhm.
somewhere for overnight or something and then you go home, you don't go back and Google that area, do you, to see what news there is?
No, no, no,
So,
no.
I mean, and also back in 2020, back in 2002, Google and that wasn't at hand like it is now. So if you don't live in the area,
Mhm.
what are the chances you're going to hear about something like that happening? Unless it's on like national news, you're not going to hear about that in your little town, however many miles away. You know, it's not like it is now where you have got news at your fingertips instantly anymore.
Honestly, I'm really surprised that this is a CCTV blind spot.
Mm.
It's insane. I mean, I'm looking at just like Google Maps, like the street view, and
Hmm.
this is very. It looks like I think I mentioned it. It looks like it's a very busy sort of
Mm.
area.
It is, yeah,
I mean, it's shops and
yeah,
restaurants but they didn't have any CCTV here. You would think
no,
this would be a prime area for them to have CCTV
yeah.
because this looks like an area that people would congregate.
Yeah,
Isn't that the point of CCTV?
of course. Yeah, it's very strange. I think the lack of CCTV is huge in in this case not being solved. I think it's a huge part, a huge factor in it because in this case you can't rely on the witnesses.
No, you can't. I think this is simply a case of a local thug that people know who it is,
Mm,
but they're afraid to come forward. That's what it seems
mm.
like.
That's what it feels like. Yeah, but what a horrible way to die! What a horrible, horrible way to
Mhm.
have your last minutes, on Earth. For his family to know that he's been beaten to death. I mean, with a chain. What sort of animal does that? For someone confronting you and then for possibly somebody else to join in and to kick someone in the face when they're on the floor helpless. What kind of
Yeah.
person are we talking about? And that person is still obviously free, or maybe they're in prison for
Well,
something else, but they're
yeah.
unpunished for this crime, and that's terrible.
No, it is. Yeah.
And imagine that being your dad. That's horrific. That's a horrific
Mhm.
way to know. That's how your dad Dad's last minutes on Earth were. Would just love for someone. I mean, just do it anonymously. If you're seeing this somewhere and you've seen the name pop up and you recognise the name, you've listened to this podcast. If you're a person that has information, do it anonymously. If you can't go in there and do it yourself, do it anonymously. Give the police a name or something. Think of his family. Think of his daughters. It's horrific. Whatever this guy did, I don't think he deserved that. It's horrific.
Oh, it is quite. It's a strange last hour of this guy's life. If you think
It
it's very
is.
strange.
And I would be very interested to speak to the ex-girlfriend to see what did he talk about. You know, was he agitated on the phone? Why did he kick his TV in? You
Yeah.
know, why was there blood all over the kitchen? If he kicked himself, why was there blood all over the kitchen doors and things like that? Why was there blood everywhere? It's a very strange case.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole TV thing's strange to me as well.
Yeah, it's very
I
strange.
wonder if
Like,
something else.
yeah.
I wonder if something else really happened inside of his place.
Yeah. Was there somebody else there? Was it an altercation? But he didn't say that to that woman when he asked her to walk him to. But why would you ask a woman to walk you to the hospital? That's strange to me too.
Yeah. Wait, and I don't know if I caught it. Was this woman known to him, or was he known to the woman?
Do you know? I don't even know. I don't even know. They haven't said whether this is somebody who knew him.
Yeah.
And in the Crime Watch reconstruction, he says, "Excuse me, love, would you help me go to I think they call it BRI. Would you help me get there?" And she says, "I'm sorry, I can't. I've got to get back. The babysitter's with my kids. I've got to get back." And he says, "Oh, okay." And then she said, "Well, how did you?" He said, "Oh, I've cut my leg." And she said, "How did you do that?" And he says, "Oh, I've had a bad day. I kicked my TV." And she said, "Well, that was a bit stupid." And then she said, "I'm
Well,
really
yeah.
sorry. I've got to go." So then she goes on her way, and then he instead of going straight to the hospital, he goes to the phone box.
Yeah.
So it's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very strange.
But this is a case that there's not a lot about either online or I don't remember hearing this case. So it was an interesting one for me because I think that this is, again, another case that could be solved quite easily with the right people coming forward.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Very strange.
Still unsolved as of this day.
Well, thank you for that.
No problem.
Very interesting case.
Yeah. And so at this point, usually at the end of our episodes, didn't do it last week because I was away, but at this point, this is where we do something that will lighten the mood slightly. And we do a segment called Dumb Criminal.
Hey, criminal, use a dummy.
Thank you, Captain. All right, Cherry. So we always do this where we like to lighten the mood by talking about our favorite dumb criminals. And this one is yet another one which made me chuckle. I'm pretty sure we've had one similar to this.
Okay.
So this is obviously the first time it happened. We're like, oh, why would someone do this? Well, it happened again. A 30-year-old man by the name of Jacob McFarland, this was out in Pennsylvania, he recently pled guilty for misdemeanor counts of retail theft and simple assault. Okay. Now, in addition to this, he also has some charges of felony robbery as well as misdemeanor terroristic threats, as well as charges for stealing stolen property, which ended up being dropped as a part of a plea agreement. Now, the retail theft and the simple assault came about when last December, McFarland entered a adult world store at around 8:30 p.m.
Is this an adult only over 18 store? Sex store?
This is an adult sex store. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So he walks into this adult world at 8:30 p.m. on December 27th, at which point he selected a fleshlight in a auto blow AI and then proceeded to exit the store without paying. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the store clerk attempted to stop McFarland in the parking lot. However, McFarland threatened to stab him, prompting the clerk to let him go. Okay. Now, this McFarland guy ended up being positively identified as a suspect because He actually had recently applied for a position at the store.
Oh no! I thought he was going to say like he got it stuck on the end of his, that's why. I was thinking that's he's like walking around town with his fleshlight attached to him. And in case you don't know what a fleshlight is, you need to look that up. It's a very, very realistic. Don't ask me how I know this, but I do. It's a very realistic piece of adult equipment.
Yes, it is.
So he had applied for a position in the store that he then went on to rob. What an idiot!
Yes.
Oh God,
Yes.
that's awful.
So yeah, they ended up finding him at a nearby little hotel that he had been staying in, and he was taken into custody.
Oh no, how stupid. That's brilliant.
Okay.
That I think that's probably one of my favorites. I like that. How silly can you
It
be?
had everything you could possibly want, right? You have adult store.
Yeah.
You have fleshlights.
Yeah.
An auto blow AI.
I don't know what that
guy
was. I'd have to
stealing
Google
them.
that one.
I think you can probably figure it out.
Why? Yeah, but why does he want both of them? Why not? The one would do, surely. Why do you want both? It's just greedy. It's his own fault he got arrested.
I know. Yeah. But if you're going to do that, don't do it at the place where you actually applied for a job.
And you've given him all your details and contact details.
Here's my name. Here's my address. This is where I'm staying.
This is why I want to. This is why I want to work in your store. And then I come and rob.
Now, the article that I found does not indicate if he was found using the toys when police arrived, but hopefully he at least got some use out of it before he.
Oh no! I hope they didn't have to pick it up. He wouldn't have had time to wash it.
Oh, could you imagine them like going to trial and that's in the evidence?
Yeah, in the evidence thing, and you know exactly what he's done with it. Ugh,
yeah,
gross. That's gross. Oh, brilliant! I like that. Thank you very much. That ends the episode very well with a nice little touch of happiness and frivolity. Thank you very much for joining us this week. We'll be back again next week with another episode. It'll be Morgan's episode next week. Meantime, you can catch us on all of our social medias, but if you want a quicker response, Instagram is probably the best place to go. So we will see you next week. Thank you very much, and for now, be nice
and bye.